9 years later, and Gilmore Girls returns to our televisions. Where you lead, we will follow. It's the Gilmore Girls After Show at AFTERBUZZ TV.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome, guys, to AFTERBUZZ TV's after show coverage for Gilmore Girls. Oh, very excited to be bringing this to you. I'm way more chipper than the Luke cosplay that I'm currently in, because I'm excited. I'm excited that this show exists, guys. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson. I have a fantastic, lovely pair of girls here to help me recap Gilmore Girls. Why don't you introduce yourself? Let's start with Marisa Serafini.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marisa Serafini. You can follow me on Twitter at SeraphiniTV. This music is giving me life.
Hey, and I'm Hayley O'Connor. You can find me on Twitter at Hayley O'Connor. That is Hayley with 2 Y's. If you don't use 2 Y's, you're not 2 wise.
Boom. I needed a drum roll effect
That
there.
line kills. Stole it from my dad.
He was a wise man.
Thanks. Yes.
We're here.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. If you are joining us in the live chat, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And if you're joining us later, be sure to let us know. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube or a rating on iTunes. Let us know what you're thinking, what you thought of these episodes. But first, I need to know what you guys thought of these episodes, because this is a show. Well, let's go back. I want to know. Let's kick it off. Introduce ourselves to everybody. What this show means to you guys, because I know for a lot of people this show is hugely important to their lives, and so everybody has a unique place that they came to with it. Marisa, why don't we start with you?
Right. Well, I loved Gilmore Girls a few years ago. Actually, admittedly, I got into it late. I saw some episodes here and there as a teenager, but I binged it all through college. And it was like the perfect time in my life that like it was so resonated with me. I drank a crap ton of coffee, like 8 to 9 cups of coffee every single day. I was constantly reading books like Rory. I was like, oh my God, Gilmore Girls is my life right now. And so I binged it twice, like literally back to back. Within 4 months, I watched the whole show twice. And it was so good. And I watched all of Lauren Graham's movies after that. I watched all of Alexis Bledell's movies after that. It was such a show that resonated with me, and they're fast talking like I am, and they're witty, and I love that, and it was just smart. And all the popular culture references and stuff, I loved it. It was a brilliant show, and I'm glad I was at the age where I can like actually understand and appreciate all the references. Instead of like being a kid and not getting it and going over my head. But I loved it. And I loved it so much. And then, a few years later when Parenthood came out, I was like, oh, thank God Lauren Graham's in another show. And I covered that show on AfterBuzz TV. So, but like, I love this show. And once I realized that WB was, putting it together, I was like, hey, I want to do the show. I literally formulated an email more than a year ago saying that I wanted to do this after show. And I'm just so glad it's back in our lives.
Yeah.
And in the world of being in Hollywood and that in that world that everyone just wants the nostalgia shows and movies to come back, I'm glad Gilmore Girls is one of them because it's still relevant. So,
yeah. What about you,
yes.
Hayley?
So I was an OGG, I guess, and I watched it when it was originally on the air. I clearly remember the first episode I saw was not the pilot, but it was the one where Rory goes to the dance in the first season, and I was hooked. I don't know. It's just like, it really spoke to me. I'm from a tiny town on the East Coast, and so it really, in so many ways, I'm Irish, obviously O'Connor, so like a crazy, like fast-talking Irish family is sort of my thing as well. So like, and I watched it all through high school and into college, because I think it went off the air in 2007. And so it was during high school and college for me, and it was just always there. I can remember in high school, like, a male friend of mine who I later ended up dating would watch it, and we would call each other on commercial breaks to be like, oh my God, did you see what happened? Oh my God, Luke. So it is always so near and dear to my heart, and I love the banter. They feel like friends, They're like, I was glad to keep hanging out with them now.
Yeah. I am a recent convert to Gilmore Girls. It started as I needed to watch like one episode for research purposes for funnily enough for TV fights on Screen Junkies.
Which episode?
The episode where Lorelai throws the Lord of the Rings birthday party for the kids. And I was like, that's fun. So I like went back and I watched the pilot and like the couple episodes, and then I made let's just say I wasn't totally sober, and I just like, I'm gonna binge this show. But this is in September. I'm gonna binge this show by the time it comes back for the revival.
Wow.
And I put it out on social media,
You did.
and
You
so
did it.
I was obligated, and then I did it.
Yeah, and then every once in a while you would catch up. You were like, oh, I'm on this show, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, just you wait.
I basically fell for this show just because like I connected. Like I'm also from a small town. Like no, not from a town. I'm from a village.
Yeah.
We were not legally allowed to say town.
I'm from a village.
So and like in New York, and so in the Northeast, and like all of this stuff. Like I mean, I don't have rich grandparents, but
same,
I
but-
connected them, and I immediately like fell in love with like, and I had that like weird thing where it's like I really love both of these women. Like in like not just like I love the characters, like
Romantically.
I romantically love both of these people.
Ready for it,
But like
whoever is available.
one is like they're equally distant from my age about
To not be appropriate.
yeah. But like the movie references, all that stuff, I connected these characters and to Luke in certain ways
Oh,
and
yeah.
to Jess in certain ways. It's fun. It's fun. All right, let's talk about these episodes. We're gonna start with winter.
Start with
I
winter.
love that it's cute, the winter, spring, summer, fall.
It's cute. You know, when I saw just the listing of the episode names, I would have assumed, based on very little, that they would have ended with winter, because we know Lorelai loves winter. It's her favorite season. She loves snow, so I figured they would have like gone out on a winter, but nope, we're starting right in with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad they started with winter because we know it's Lorelai's favorite time
So-
of year, and I love how they added the line like, "I smell snow."
Yeah, charm us right off the bat.
The top of this episode is like very much just like nostalgia turned up to 11.
yeah,
Just
sure.
like they literally like tore the town. The amount of times where she like wrote them into like, and you can see where she's commenting on
Yeah.
the fact that this exists is. It like borders it like just before it would reach into being like too much.
Yeah, it walked the line. They have right at the start, I think, Lorelai says, "How long has it been?" Or like, "It feels like years."
Yeah.
But it hasn't, or at least we would assume watching these episodes that like Rory's coming home all the time, so there's no way they've gone like
Yeah.
even a year without seeing each other.
It may have been like a few weeks or something.
Right. It feels like years.
But for those watching, definitely feels like years.
Yeah,
I
but
love that. You know.
Well,
That's
not for Zach, though.
self-awareness.
One of the lucky few that got to just watch it all through.
The self-awareness. I loved how they added that.
Yeah. It's cute. Like, so we walk around the town. We see Kirk has a pig.
I like
Yeah.
that. Just a sprinkle of Kirk is fine. All I need. I don't need any more than that.
He
A
wants to
pig's
start
fine.
Uber.
Taylor's got his trying to
Septic
change the
system.
town.
Yeah,
Like he's
yeah.
got a campaign going on. Yeah. So let's talk about Lorelai's plotline in this episode. It was a lot of it was centered around the funeral and the passing of her father, which was necessary for the show since the actor passed away.
Rest in peace, Richard and Edward Herman.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that Amy
Paladin.
Paladin. Okay, I wasn't sure quite how to pronounce it, so I'm like, all right.
We got this.
But she had talked about how it was sort of the impetus for how what the show was going to be, what this season was going to be. Because how do you deal with like such a major character not being able to
Sure.
return? You address it head on.
Right.
So Lorelai comes into this. We got Jason popped up at the funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Great.
nice. Of course he would be there. Sure.
Digger.
But it sort of made sense to me. I'm curious what you guys thought, that they got it back to a place where she was being adversarial with her mother. As opposed to like where they were like
would-
more or less bonded towards the end of the original series.
but they had to, right? Like that's part of what people want to see with them. They want them to fight because we kind of love it. Like,
Well, exactly.
We're all
but
jerks, is what you're saying.
yeah, we are.
But I think it's to their characters. They're constantly fighting, but somehow they're still family, and they still get to that point where they understand each other and can kind of start to agree with each other, and then be civil again. It's just that ebb and flow of their relationship.
Yeah. And they got a lot to work on. The funeral sequence I thought was pretty beautiful.
Yeah,
and
Tom
maybe, like,
Waits or something was right. The song playing.
Yeah, just the way that they threaded it into like jumping back to it as opposed to starting with it, because
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
would have been the temptation for a lot of people.
Just
with
open
to,
with that,
to
yeah.
be to open with the dramatic moment, but I think it was cleaner to like have like it go back as a revelation
Yeah.
and see all this play out, and the way that everybody reacted differently to his passing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, you can see Emily's distraught and she's trying to like get her life back together, and the overcompensating, over obsessive way that she does. And then Lorelai's, not to jump ahead, but like Lorelai's awkwardness and how she deals with it, and even Rory just trying to be supportive of everybody. I liked how they touched upon this, and they still used a premeditated, like an already predetermined story of Richard's health and his, in the earlier seasons when
Yeah.
he had heart problems. I loved how that was still a reoccurring thing that made sense for this character and how he passed.
Yeah, I do love the story of him like passing. I think that comes in spring, but we can talk about it now as long as we're discussing it. Like the idea that he was for those watching, for the record, we are talking about both winter and spring, so spoilers are
Of just
in the
those
air
first
for
two,
both
yeah.
of those two.
Spoilers are in
Don't
the air.
spoil the rest for us.
Yeah, but we haven't watched summer or fall yet. But the idea that he was like, "Get away from me," as his last words.
Charming.
I can picture and I can hear Richard say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
It works. It's like,
does.
because he is somebody who likes to be in control. So it made sense. But the fight that was ignited after Lorelai, like, I was surprised she couldn't come up with any like positive anecdote.
Well, drinking. I mean, they give her a reason. Like
Straight
she
bourbon.
hasn't eaten. She's been drinking,
Yeah.
and you're upset. I don't know. The passing of a parent is
Gotcha.
impossibly hard, and she's been drinking all afternoon, and then surprise, you have to say words.
A parent that you've had a very mixed
Challenging
with.
relationship for sure.
Because I went back and I watched the pilot, the original pilot, and it's so interesting to see his behavior towards Lorelai in those early episodes, because we think of them as having a pretty good rapport. Because
It takes a minute to warm up, right? Yeah.
Their relationship is always much friendlier than it was between Emily and Lorelai.
Yeah, well, yeah, man.
But right at the beginning, like it was like he was less receptive to her. He was
Yeah.
more angry than Emily was.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to like go back and look at that difference. But yeah, it makes sense for the character. But the fight that was caused by Emily, like, really screams a lot of truths at her.
Yeah.
That's like, even as a fan, you're like, oh, don't tear apart the character for
I
me.
love Emily. You know, there is no show without Emily being like, because everyone thinks of Lorelai and Rory, but oh my God, I love Emily. She is, I mean, she's tough. She's tough and awful sometimes, but she is like such a good character to have. So yeah, she said some real true stuff.
She did. I mean, you got to remember that Emily is also a Gilmore Girl as well,
Yeah.
technically.
One of the girls in the title.
Yeah, and like I understand what she was saying to Lorelai, and I feel like she's the only one who can actually say that to Lorelai and like maybe get through to Lorelai, like, yes, I am this kind of person. I keep doing these things. But the thing is, what kind of bothers me, how Emily keeps bringing it up, there's still old problems that Emily hasn't resolved yet. It's like, these are things you're still resentful for. They happened years ago. You'd think like she'd kind of move on a bit, like we already got those issues out of the past, but yeah, she still brings it up. And I think that bothers me that she still hasn't really let that go and move on. It's like, it's a grudge. And yet I find it kind of like ironic how she's like, Lorelai, you hold on to grudges. It's like, so do you.
Yeah, but that's real though, right? Like nobody can see themselves. You always call out the thing when you're fighting someone that's really your thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a certain amount of like Lorelai is selfish a lot.
She is so. They both are selfish. Her
Yeah.
and her daughter. When you watch it and you try to not love them, you're like, wow, we might not like these people in real life.
But the idea that like she didn't even ask what Luke wanted is fair. Like that's
Yeah.
not necessarily something that she has asked, and it's the kind of thing that I don't think ever occurred to her. And that's exactly what
'Cause she already
what's
did it, yeah.
Scary
Yeah.
about it for her.
Those are good questions, but it's also hard for the audience who've been watching. We skipped 9 years. We don't know if we didn't see the fact that Lorelai didn't ask him any questions. Like, oh, I guess she didn't.
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of assumed that it just happened, but we didn't know how.
Yeah.
So I liked how she brought that up.
Yeah. Laura. The other thing that Lorelai is mainly dealing with in this episode is like at the inn, with Sookie's missing,
Yeah.
Sookie's obviously gone.
i.e., we can only get Melissa McCarthy for one
Yeah,
episode.
right. Yeah, little too successful, Melissa.
But good for her.
You didn't show up to your best friend's dad's funeral.
Oh yeah, that's a
yeah.
good
Probably
point.
because we could only get Melissa McCarthy for one episode.
Well, she's been gone for apparently a year.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
So
That
So
happened
we're-
within 4 months, quote
We're
unquote.
cycling through some famous chefs at the end. And
I love that. I
love
missed
that.
that they had said. Like the first time I watched this one because I watched it twice. I missed the fact they said Roy Choi. Like and then when I saw him because I know who that is, I was like, is that
Yeah.
Roy Choi?
Yep.
Great chef, by the way.
Oh
See,
yeah.
I didn't know who Roy Choi
No,
is.
me either.
I only know who he is because I went to a pop-up of his connected
Dragonfly
to
Inn?
connected to the movie Chef.
Oh,
Which
such
he
a good
appeared
movie.
in,
Yeah.
and they were serving like his sandwiches from the movie.
Wow.
Nice.
Good movie, by the way. It's
a great movie.
Great Cubanos. But yeah, this is a great. I mean, it's a running gag.
Sure,
That I
yep.
appreciate. It's funny. Like why she's throwing him out, I have no idea.
Nobody can compare to
I know.
Sookie. There's no other Sookie.
Yeah,
so.
but it's that
It's
she
not the
just
same.
threw out who's cooking the food.
Yeah, it does seem like a bad business practice.
There were a few times I get frustrated with Lorelai for
Yeah.
like business decisions.
Yeah.
And Rory for that matter in these episodes. Both of them
Yeah.
like you guys just like
Get it together.
yeah, like oh my god, you are the cause of all of your problems.
Yeah.
But Lorelai can hire more people. Apparently, she has no problem hiring more people.
Yeah, what wasn't discussed, but it seems like, I guess it was a little bit discussed. They said, like, the inn has been booked solid for however long all this time, but it seems like they're not having money problems. So, of all the, like, issues of life that are coming up, they're not having money issues anymore, which
Yeah.
was kind of a thing earlier when, obviously, she couldn't pay for Chilton and whatever. So they're not having money issues anymore, but it just seems like so now she can behave however she wants. Just throw out your cook when you have guests.
Well, she is the owner.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
can do whatever.
Yeah.
I just like one more point on this. Like, I liked how Emily's always known for like having different maids every episode.
Yeah.
Like, she still had Berta for
Oh.
more than 2 episodes. I was like amazed by that. But yet Lorelai can't hold on to a chef.
That's a really good parallel. Lorelai has become the
Interesting.
Emily,
yeah,
except
when
with
it comes
chefs.
to chefs.
That's real good.
Just fire new people coming in all the
Yep,
time.
yep.
Rachel Ray is not good enough
Oh,
for you.
get her out. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Becoming her mother, as we
Poor
all
Rachel.
do.
The Berta storyline is weird.
I'm perplexed by this. What's the deal?
I like.
Who is it? Who's the actress? Do you guys know?
No, but that's the thing. It's like
I tried to look it up,
We're,
and
like-
it wasn't on IMDb.
whoever the maid is for every episode of Gilmore Girls ever, they've gone through hundreds of
Yeah,
maids.
you fire
But, like,
two an episode.
we never knew them because we never had them long enough to
Yeah.
learn about who they are, if they had family, like what they do in their life when they're not
Right.
at the Gilmore
They're
house.
a device to be
So
fired.
like the fact that like Berta's been around for longer than 2 episodes and more than a few months,
yeah,
it's
some
like,
growth
oh,
for Emily,
they're
probably.
trying to
Yeah.
like add some background to this character that we still won't know of.
Oh my god! Wait, is that accurate?
Wait, what do you see?
According to this, like, I'm looking at Wikipedia trying to figure out who.
Okay.
And
Could
it
be
says
anything.
Rose Abdu, who plays Gypsy,
That's what I thought. I thought it might be Gypsy.
is also Berta.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just with a big
And
wig on.
and now that I read that, I'm like, that
the mouth a little
works.
Yeah.
That I did not realize
Okay.
that.
Different
it's sort
makeup.
of like
Now we
the,
know.
like I mean they've done it before with Alex Borstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only case that I can think of. Oh no, they did it. They did it with great grandma, who came back as her own cousin.
Very
Right.
soap opera.
Goodness.
The actress came back as her own cousin. Anyway, so they
they do it a little bit.
continuing
A little
the
quirky,
a small
yeah.
tradition within Gilmore Girls.
Yep,
All
yeah,
right,
right.
that works.
But she doesn't speak any known language, I guess.
It sounded like Spanish. Am I
A
right?
little Spanish.
Well, but there
It's in
would.
Spanish.
but then they have some
Portuguese.
lines
I don't
about
know.
nobody knows what language yet.
But like I listen, like when she's saying like you're like not here, she's not using like it has like a key in it, which is here,
Yeah,
but it's
no
not.
key.
That's not. It's just a part of the word
Yeah,
she's saying
yeah.
for here. So it's something. It's like either Portuguese or close
Yeah,
to it,
I think
or
it's a mix.
one of those like languages in Spain that's like only spoken by like 200 people.
It's probably that.
Sorry for offending anyone right now.
Look, I only have a certain amount of knowledge about the Spanish language. Anyway, let's jump over to Rory.
Let's jump to Rory.
Because I got a lot of stuff to say about Rory.
I have some
Yeah.
feelings, not all positive.
Rory's am I the only one that thinks Rory's being mean
to Paul?
to a lot of people?
Yeah.
But
Selfish.
but
They're
very
selfish.
much to
yeah.
Paul.
Paul is poor Paul.
Poor Paul.
I
but she knows better.
gotta be honest. I
does
don't like the Paul storyline.
I don't
It's
like
sad.
it either.
See, what's even why? What's the point, right? Why is he a device?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to show that she's kind of
Well, I think it's also to show, like, yes, the audience was always split of which boyfriend was the best for Rory, and obviously we'll get to them. But the fact that like Paul is like so insignificant right now that like even Rory can't even remember him is sad. So my problem is just as like a writing kind of device. Like if you're gonna have such a throwaway character, don't even have him because he adds literally nothing to this show.
But I totally agree. Like the joke of forgetting a person,
it's really sad.
it just feels like
It's
a
mean.
second
Yeah.
rate. It's like it's the same bit that they did on Arrested Development with Anne.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But it was
as
funny on Arrested Development.
Well, the difference is it's a
Not
different
sad.
it's a different type of humor. Like
Yeah.
from a pure writing standpoint, like it's mean, but Arrested Development was like a mean, like more silly show
Yeah.
where you could like legitimately people
Yeah,
would.
we're supposed to love Rory, right?
There's a little bit of a separation of like realism from Arrested Development because they go
Yeah,
into the absurd.
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls is not an absurdist show. It's a very down to earth show. So like, there's no way that Luke, Lorelai, and
Everyone
Emily
forgot him.
and Rory and all these people who are decent people,
Some of them.
just forget
Yeah.
about a person
Yeah.
that she's been dating for 2 years. And I can understand her forgetting the 2 years thing because she's
Sure.
been traveling. That reads very true. But the forgetting him constantly is not, it's just, it didn't make
And that
me
she just-
laugh.
Yeah.
I felt bad because maybe it's because I feel like I'm too close to being like a Paul.
Oh.
What was your name again?
Not entirely, but like maybe of her like harem of guys, which is not unfair after these episodes because of Logan.
Oh, why?
Why?
Why is Logan here?
Yes.
Like, it has been 10 years since you were in college. Why are you hanging around this guy?
No, but like my question is like, what is happening between these two? And like, not to jump ahead again, but just the whole
Jump is
the
jump
whole
is easy to
Logan
do.
Rory relationship. I don't understand what's happening. We know that Logan is engaged to a French woman. They're not together all the time, but every time Rory comes back and lives in London, she crashes with him.
A French
But-
heiress.
Yeah, but like I'm not understanding. Like they're kissing each other, they're cuddling up next to each other, they're always talking to each other and having dates and whatnot. Dinner
Oh, they're
and-
clearly banging.
They're sleeping.
Yeah, they're
together.
sleeping
Yeah.
together. But like, I'm just trying to figure out this relationship. If they wanted to go like full on, like them actually official again.
My take
I'm just
on it
trying to
is
understand it.
he obviously doesn't. He's gonna do this marriage of two powerful houses, as it were, like, and marry whoever this French woman is. And I don't know, Rory. What does Rory want? Not sure. Like, but I think Logan likes what he's getting. He can have, a taste. And then
I'll
she
just
leaves.
say I was never a Team Logan person.
No, me
ever.
either.
No, I didn't like him at first. I warmed to him a little bit. Then there was the episode with him and Jess where he flipped out at him, and that's to me that was such a reveal of who he is as a person underneath, that every good act that he had after that was you don't fool me, Logan. But yeah, I never liked Logan.
It confused me as a character for Rory to even be interested in for a while, but then only in watching these new episodes I thought, is he he's like a young Christopher a little bit. He's the her dad figure, right? Really wealthy and does what he wants.
They did that in one episode where they made it very clear that when Christopher first met him, they made it very clear.
Same guy.
And then, I had never connected it until they made the point of showing it. And in that sense, I think that's why she fell for him.
Yeah.
I think them getting back together, I don't like it, but I get it because it's falling back into an old
ways.
into your old ways.
Guys, she's 32. This is some of her storyline stuff. I felt like this is her mid-20s. Find yourself. I don't have a job. Journalism's dead, Rory. Everything this is for her mid-20s. She's 32. She knows better by now. What has she been doing for 10 years?
Do you think she's being maybe it's that she's being written more as a 25-year-old?
We shouldn't have waited this many years to have this show back.
Had the show go on
a little bit, because
still continued, these are the things we would have been seeing.
And I would almost forgive she's homeless. She's jumping around from all these. Yeah, she's a nomad, and homeless is the wrong
what?
word,
If you think about
but
where
that's what you do in your as a 20 something, but she's over 30. It's time to live in a location at least.
I think Lorelai brought up a good point. She's like, hey, life's been good to you already.
Yeah.
She had success so early on in her life, and I think this is just one of the first times she actually hit a brick wall, and she just doesn't know what to do herself. But since we've been off the air for 9 years, we didn't see that. So I think as the audience, we're just led to believe that she's just been successful her whole time, while we didn't see her, and this is the first time she's actually struggling.
If we sort of read the whole series as if it was 2 years after it went off the air, I'm thinking about Lorelai's storyline
Never
too.
talked about having kids with Luke, whatever. Yeah,
it makes so much more sense with that time frame.
To me, I think so too. Exactly.
So I almost want to watch it with that in my head instead.
Because Rory's a little too old to be jerking these guys around, and just it's she should have matured.
I mean, I know plenty of people, both men and women, who are in their early to mid 30s who are not settled down, who are single, especially if you're in a more creative field.
Yeah,
that
I'm sure
forces
it's
you to
a comment on how it sucks to be young right now. But
I do love that she's working with Alex Kingston.
Yes,
she popped up. I went, River.
I know. All I could think was no spoilers as we were going to be talking about it.
Nice.
No, I was just thinking, Elizabeth Corday from ER. I went back to ER days.
She was fun.
Glad to see her. She was really fun.
She was great.
I like when she insulted Winston Churchill.
She was fun. She got a little too much though, and I think that was just how they wrote her character, and obviously being a drunk. To the point where, this could not be a good working relationship.
No, obviously not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Say it.
It's it's fun. I don't know what to think of. Rory, just read the room. Read the person in front of you.
Exactly.
But I can also totally understand the temptation, because being in the entertainment industry as we are, there are those people who can show you one side of their face to get you this could totally be a good thing. 6 months in, you're like, oh no
way,
what have I done?
Yeah.
Because I've had people do that where they're working with you on something, you put in a lot of hours in on spec, and then they will just decide one day No, I don't. Like, I don't want to.
Sure, we've all had that. Yeah, horrible flakes and.
It happens at every level.
Yeah.
So that moment read real true.
I just felt bad for Rory though, because someone who doesn't have a stable career, stable finances right now, and how she can still afford to keep traveling back and forth from London.
I know. I guess.
All right,
Well,
I'll just look past that.
so she's not paying rent anywhere, so I guess that all goes to like plane tickets, right? This is what I hate to bring it back to the money thing, but I really wonder how is she making a living? And to your point earlier that like, yeah, I guess she has been successful up to this point, that she's like been published in the New Yorker, and she's been able before this winter started to afford her own place in Brooklyn, which is not cheap. Like how she's been living there, although I guess maybe grandparents help, but she's a little old for that again. Like, you know, if they
Not
were
in
helping support her.
2016.
Yeah, but if you think about it, everywhere
all
like
right.
she lands, like she's always fed and she always has housing.
yeah.
Like she goes to Lorelai feeds her. She goes to Logan buys the dinner. She goes to Emily's house, and Emily always provides the food. So like she's always had food and housing.
True.
And if she is working enough that, like, let's say she's got like a good, if not great, income.
Maybe she's on retainer.
If she was on retainer anywhere, I don't think she would be looking for work that way.
Right.
But like freelancing, like especially for big places like that, I imagine she gets a decent enough income to support herself. I don't know how that works. Like I don't know what magazine writers get paid. Admittedly.
And we're supposed to assume that this is all that she's been doing. Is she's been a writer this whole time. She hasn't had other side jobs like the rest of us have to do.
I mean, probably starting out, and we just didn't need to discuss it. But
Okay.
like, yeah, like now that's all she's doing.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're not spending money on like, if you're not going out drinking all the time, like you don't have to spend money on meals, like all these
Well,
things.
maybe that's
like, add up.
that's what Paul's for. Nice Paul will take her out on dates and buy her drinks.
Paul.
There's the use for Paul.
She cheats on him multiple times in these episodes.
Really,
And she doesn't even remember that.
it's really out of character. Is it out of character?
Yes,
See, I'm
that's the
torn.
thing. I
It's
think
out
it
of
is
character,
complete.
yeah.
I think it is out of character. That's
Because
why
obviously
it bothers me.
there's the Dean thing with Dean back in the original series, and she loses her virginity to Dean, right? And
But she wasn't cheating.
but he was. So
But
that's,
he
and
was.
the
she
thing is,
felt
like,
badly
she's
about
always
it.
the mistress in every relationship. Which is
But not this. But not this with
But
Paul.
that does not make Rory look like a good person.
Yeah, it's baffling. I mean, she was raised right, right. I mean, like Lorelai doesn't condone this kind of behavior.
Doesn't she?
She's had luck with men.
Does she cheat?
Lorelai.
What? She doesn't. She's not a cheater.
Let us not forget
she-
the end of season 6.
Yeah, let's not forget the end of season 2. She kissed Dean, or like she kissed Jess while she was still dating Dean.
Oh,
goodness.
that's right. Okay, well, so she's okay.
Like, I'm not. Like, this isn't to say like these are horrible people.
No.
But these are like they've done
Immoral.
Questionable.
questionable, not immoral, questionable things. And again, it's like because with the whole thing with Logan, like they're both cheating.
Yeah. He doesn't care though. He seems like they just seem like two non-matching. I don't understand the couple.
I think it's just that they're connecting to a time that was in their lives that was simpler, that was good. Because like when you think back to college, like there is like a rose-colored glasses type thing around relationships.
And definitely for him, like I would say for Logan has been like this crazy level of wealth his whole life. He doesn't need to, he works obviously, but he has got family money forever, right? Like, so things don't matter to him in the same way that they definitely matter to Rory, I think. Like, you need a job. She needs to find work that she's trying to do, and he's kind of like, whatever, like, so sure, college was great for him. College was a struggle for her some of the time to, like, she dropped out and she did all these other things. Like, I don't know. Yeah, Logan's the worst.
Thanks to the Huntsbergers. The Huntsberger family. That
Mitchum
whole
like
Huntsberger
popping in.
Oh yeah, that was
like
good. That was
Oh,
good.
no,
It
it was terrible.
It made me laugh.
It made me laugh too.
Because like it was such a, and it was also like such a like hey, here's a character moment, because the way he like appeared, like he literally just like appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah. I liked it too, and that's because I'm like a little angry with Rory right now. So like I liked that. Yeah, it's gonna be uncomfortable because he's a jerk, but like sit through it because you're seeing Logan for no reason.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like it because I just hated Mitch
he's
much.
He's awful.
When he came on the screen, I literally yelled at the TV. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? You know? So like he just still irks me to this day.
Oh, he's a jackass.
He's awful.
He's a terrible human being.
Well, speaking of him, let's like we'll do this for both episodes, and then we'll get into spring. I loved all the little like pop-ups for characters, like because they really did make sure that they're showing, and I'm sure more so in the in the second 2 episodes. Like
Miss Patty showed up right away,
Miss
just
Patty,
from a distance.
She
like,
was great.
Yeah,
standing in the exact same spot as she always did. Perfect. I love the question of Taylor. Like, is he gay or not?
Yeah, that he's never addressed apparently.
The whole town, like,
Forgetting someone?
Sure there isn't someone else who can stand in that parade.
We met Mr. Kim.
Yes, I missed that the first time, but I watched it again and it was like, what? Because if you blink, you miss it. But yep, there's a Mr. Kim.
That was great.
It's so funny.
Because that was the other thing that like threw me off rewatching the pilot was like they refer to her. Lane keeps referring to her parents, but we never meet her dad at any point. So I had just been like, oh, her father must have like passed away.
Yeah, it would have been easy to make her mom a widow. So,
but they're like,
nope,
no,
there he is.
You just never met him.
Yeah, but I was like, what has he been doing his whole time?
What does he do for a living?
And I loved how
questions.
he didn't even say anything. He just waved. We're like, what?
I think that was the gag.
Just a
They're
featured
like
extra.
It was just like
Just there.
something that like I think probably happened by accident. Like 2 or 3 seasons in, somebody was like, you know, we've never met her dad, and they go, oh man, we'll just keep it. Like never cast him.
yeah.
Like it's a fun gag, and they never address it, so you never think twice about it until this
Exactly.
moment.
Lane looked great though.
Yeah. Lane
Like,
looks identical. Like
She looks the exact
she's one of the
same.
people who has not changed.
Well, she was much older than a teenager, I think, even when the
She
show
was.
started. So
She was.
she's older than Alexis Bledel.
Her and Alexis Bledel. I think Alexis Bledel would have been 18 when they started filming.
When they
Actually,
started,
Alexis
yeah.
was 20 when they started.
Oh yeah,
She was supposed to be 16, but she was actually 20.
which she easily played, like especially
she
in
looked
TV
young, yeah.
world.
Oh, totally.
But Liz and TJ, we got by phone.
Oh, yeah, which is great. That's all I need out of
And
them.
they're
I
part
don't
of a
need them to show
vegetable
up.
cult.
Naturally, they are. Good. Keep them over there and don't show them.
No, but like I kind of love Liz and TJ. I kind of actually wanted to see them. Maybe in the future episodes.
Yeah. Paul Anka made an appearance.
Love it. Love it.
So good.
I was excited that Paul Anka had survived.
Me too.
That's an old dog now. He
is.
was old in the series.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
He was a rescue. Like he was already living by the time Lorelai adopted him.
But
It's
we
probably-
didn't need that. We didn't need like a
No.
dead dog story.
No, and it's probably thanks to Luke, because I remember from the original series, like they had set up before she got Paul Anka that Lorelai is terrible at keeping pets. Like she would kill a lot of animals.
Yeah.
But I loved how they had the real Paul Anka actually
Yeah.
incorporated into the show as well. You have to.
Yeah, gotta.
What do you think the nightmares are about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think?
It's Paul.
Bathrooms.
I guess it's just like it's about home life.
Home life.
Home life is freaking her out because like as we freshen up and move into spring, the whole thing with her and Luke, like having kids or not, is a big deal. Like in terms of like what their lives are supposed to be like. It's sort of just like they never really addressed it. Like Luke feels like he brought it up once,
Yeah.
but didn't really.
Yeah.
It's
Which I would read as it's not that important to him. So, and it's not that important to her. So that's why, like, if you really want kids, you're gonna talk about it. Right?
for Lorelai, yes, but I think in Luke's case,
He thought he brought it up.
well, no, not just that he thought he brought it up, but I think he's scared to bring something like that up because if you think about how their relationship fell apart the first time,
That's fair. Yeah.
like the
April.
idea of introducing a topic that very much is exactly the type of topic that explodes
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah, that's right.
I can understand him being scared to raise the issue with her.
Yeah, but I also kind of find it maybe just a little hard to believe how we see how he's such a good dad to April when April came into his life, and he always felt bad that he missed raising her and like missed the whole baby years to the teenage years, and like you think he would want to do that with Lorelai.
I think he does. Like that's the thing. I think
They
he
are,
does.
They are
but
pretty old now, though, to begin. Like,
Yeah.
But I just find it so hard to believe that he's so resistant to even wanting to start having another kid with her.
Well, I think it's not that he's resistant to the idea of having a kid, but
Reluctant.
he has sort of gotten himself into a state of mind where he is like, this is going to be my life for the rest for till I die, and he's decided that he's okay with that, and he's not really searching for anything else.
And he's that type of character.
And
yeah,
he's
just
while
like,
he
this is my
might
lot.
like want a kid, like he's set his mind to this, and he's staying there, and like. Dealing with Paris and her approach to surrogacy is
I
just
love
like
Paris.
so the opposite of what he would do in any of this. He's like, you know what? Just forget it. Forget the whole
She's
thing.
way too intense for anyone,
Yeah, she
especially
didn't
Luke.
really help the matter. But I loved how we did get Paris back. Like, and it seemed like nothing has passed with her. No time has
She
passed
looks
with her.
great.
She
Yeah.
looks
Great
amazing.
haircut.
And she had a kid too in real life. Like, I mean, but Paris is so consistent in how intense
funny, yeah.
that she is, even now older, more wiser. Like, she's still the same.
She's
Paris.
written perfectly.
Yeah, and I think
She
not
is.
everybody can make that writing funny, but she's really funny. Like, it's hard. It's a challenge, I think, but she is great.
yeah, just from an acting standpoint,
It's hard
Amazing.
to deliver
So
that
great.
and still be like a liked character, definitely.
Well, the thing is like, yeah, she's intense, but deep down underneath that, she still has good intentions for everything.
Yeah.
And that's what you gotta love her. She does have heart, and she does actually mean well.
And she's a roaring success, right? She runs her own hugely successful business. She's doing great. She's doing like I think we want Rory to be doing. You know?
I mean, when they go back to Chilton, like, and they
my
run into
goodness.
Francie, and Francie's like,
yeah.
"You're a lawyer, like the doctor,
Yeah,
like,
On fire.
Like, you have a dental. You're a amateur dental hygienist. Like what?
An amateur
You're
dentist.
everything.
Then that totally reads true for Paris. Like she would like be unsatisfied. She's like, yeah, I got my law degree, but I'm gonna go get my doctor.
Yep.
My MD as well.
I think Francie had one of the best lines, like, what did I just step back in 2003?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Which is what we all wanted, right?
Yeah, the whole Chilton like thing. They clearly couldn't get Chad Michael Murray to come back on
I
the show.
know. Like, oh, the back of a blonde man's head? It must be
I was
Tristan.
like, and he's taller than Chad Michael.
Hey, he grew after high school.
Sure.
Apparently.
Yeah, that's when he really came into his own. That's the only part I didn't like about like Paris's storyline was like, really, you're hung up on this high school asshole.
But see,
Yeah,
I
right.
I get it. Like that feel like immediately just like falling back to where you were. It reminded me of How I Met Your Mother, Revertigo.
Revertigo.
Like as soon as you're around
Yeah.
the people from that age, and like I've totally felt this, like because I went to a high school reunion recently. I'm not going to tell you which one.
10-year.
Yes. Thank you, Hayley.
Still have mine.
But like, and you do sort of feel like you're still in that same, like the power
'Cause with
positions between
everyone
different
on- yeah,
groups.
You just get back to those old feelings of how you felt the last time you saw them.
Okay, I haven't been to a high school reunion, but on like one-off scenarios, I've seen people from high school that you have a
Yeah.
crush on or that you hated or whatever, and you just I don't know. There's the total opposite reaction of like, oh, you like I was wrong. Like you're not attractive or whatever.
I remember running into one of my like high school crushes, and it was just as awkward as it always was. Like even though we like had stuff to talk about, and like there was like things like career stuff that we were talking that like was like similar. It was still super awkward, and like I was uncomfortable, and just like I'm gonna move on. And it wasn't even because I was interested. It was just like I got back there.
Yeah.
So I could totally see Paris
Okay.
just seeing that and connect and like falling into that like
All right.
I remember exactly.
Well, too bad then that they couldn't get Chad Michael Murray and like give Paris some like to be able
Kick him in
to
the-
overcome it, or some success on that storyline.
I do hope that we get Louise and
France.
What is her
Madeline.
name?
Madeline.
Louise.
Yes.
I hope we get that back. They were always a fun like
Yeah.
group to just appear in places.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and it goes with just that trope that you always see. There's always the three girls and the three mean girls. you have
Is
the,
that it? Is
no,
it, is
no,
it
you
always
do.
three?
You have the mean girl, you have the follower, and you have the wannabe, and those were those three.
Yep, they're those cliches.
Yeah, it's a trope that's used so many times.
Is that why groups always blow up when you introduce that new character? Like the
Break the mold.
Paris, Madeline, Louise, like they fell apart because Rory was introduced, and Mean Girls as soon as Lindsay Lohan shows up, like all
It
kinds
all
of craziness goes on.
Exactly. I told you, it's the trope. It's seen so many times.
What did you guys think of the dean offering Rory like basically an open staff? Like he's like, whenever you want to teach here, you have a spot.
I think that's great. I think it was that one thing, like, yes, she's lost right now and she's trying to find her way, but like if she kind of goes back and refocuses and like reshifts her priorities, she could have still a successful career. Like, yeah, things aren't coming to her now, but later on down the future, they're always there for her.
Sure, yeah, it's not like she is struggling really the way some other people might struggle. Like, she's not at a loss for potential jobs. She just sort of thinks herself maybe too good for them, I guess. Because, I mean, and not to say, like, not everyone wants to go back and teach at their high school because that might be a nightmare. Although Chilton is supposed to be very prestigious, so it could be a good thing. But it didn't seem like she jumped at that offer. I don't think she was necessarily interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she
It's not what she wants.
she doesn't, like, I think she would, and they made it very clear.
It's giving up the dream, right? Like, it's having a regular job.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, she clearly is good at it.
Yeah.
Because, like, when she's talking to those kids, like, that was a beautiful speech that she gave about, like, music. It was true, it was meaningful. She's very good with words.
She is, and I think that just shows her character. Like, she may not be good at everything, but even the things that are challenging to her, she still works through it, and she's still successful at the end.
Yeah.
And I loved how the whole class was just so engaged compared to what Paris's class was.
Oh my God.
Like, at the end, one girl literally crying. It was just
The
hysterical.
reactions to
dream.
Paris, like
so
the
good.
physics
So
professor,
good.
like running away, he had to have a special meeting. The dean had to like bring them in to be like,
Therapy.
Love it.
it's gonna be okay. Like she's crazy. What is Paris like? I don't like to quote Joseph Stalin, but
Yeah,
how
she's
all
the
great.
greatest. She's awesome.
She was amazing. She had a great quote where and that's just in the bedroom. And like, I don't know about anybody else, but like I actually laughed out loud at that line, and like no one did. I'm like, no, that was actually funny, you guys. That was funny.
Yeah.
She said a joke.
So then we get the whole thing with Rory and her job hunt, because the book deal falls through, which we already talked about, for the best, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blessing in disguise.
And then Sandy is calling her from Sandy Says.
Yeah, who's like been bothering her like
apparently a while.
Yeah. This was such an interesting thing to like, just like the whole. I've never been courted by a job.
No, that must be
before.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be like,
That'd be great.
oh my. But I can't imagine that like any decent employer would be like reaching out this much, like telling you that they want you, and not just hand over a job. Like that seems I think Rory's expectations were perfectly legitimate for what she thought was happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It sounded like this job is for you.
Yeah, you don't like spend all this time courting somebody and then bring them in for an interview.
Boy, that interview scene was like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That was
Awkward.
really uncomfortable.
It was painful to
My skin
watch.
crawled. Yeah.
In that sense, though, I feel like it's probably accurate to life with some of these
Probably,
like
but
smaller
also-
startup type places.
I guarantee that's probably the case. But also for Rory, even though she like assumed it was in the bag and she had this, and they wanted her for a year or however long they've been calling her, like it's Rory. So even if she didn't expect to be interviewed, wouldn't you think she'd be like a good interviewee? Like I assume she was always like prepared girl, study and do all the work. And I expected, even like though it was a curveball, to be like, oh, well, here I am being amazing.
She does,
Yeah.
she does need to learn how to pitch. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's that different from pitching anything else. It's like, okay, you don't have a reaction first way. How you deal with this, you go in, you're like, you know what? What kind of stuff are you looking for? Let me go to work on it. I'll come back tomorrow with like 10 pitches. Like that's how Rory should have approached that. Like when she found herself in this situation, which like it wasn't fair to like have to like throw that on her like that. But that's what happened.
But be ready. Yeah. And she would know. She's 32. I can't get away from it.
But still,
she should know by now.
that company, oh my God.
Yeah, horrible.
There
Horrible.
are no
Stay away.
offices. We're making word honey.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. That's awful.
Word
No.
honey. At that line, I was just like,
leave.
no.
Goodbye.
Get out. I think this was kind of where it felt out of character for Rory as well, not being as prepared as she usually is. Even when she's like trying to find her lucky outfit, like the fact that she doesn't organize her life anymore, or like as well as she used to. Like she's literally lost, and she's not doing the same thing she used to be doing. She lost herself, which is understandable. I think a lot of people hits those those brick walls in life.
For sure.
She's just not the same Rory that we saw
I think that
years ago.
I think that makes sense. I mean, it's been 9 years. Like in this sense, it works for me because it's been 9 years, and she's like flying by the seat of her pants constantly. And when you're in that kind of life, like it's like when you have
catch up at
when
a
you're
certain
working
point.
like 70-hour weeks and you just can't, like the basic version, you just don't get to the dishes for a month because when do you have time to stop and be like, well, I can now clean these things. Like, no, I don't have time for that, so I'm just going to get a paper plate from the takeout and like eat it that way. We all get into those loops. I think she's been in that for a long time, to the point where she's not only just throwing away the dishes, she threw away her whole apartment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so it's tough, but I could see her getting to that place because she was so type A, so driven that she basically dug her own grave.
Yeah.
And now she's going all in on the GQ lines story.
God, so hateful.
Lines.
I loved that reaction to just like to the news. Like she immediately jumped. Like again, she's type A. Like she's like, all right, that didn't work. What's next?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that thing didn't work. All right, they gave me the most small shred of hope.
Yeah.
And I
into it.
I had to look up what Condé Nast was. I had no idea
same
that
here.
was a thing.
Condé Nast.
I thought it was a person for like the whole until she went into that room. I legitimately thought it was a person.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was like Condi Rice's like because they call her Condi Rice. Like I just assumed like
Conde
oh
Rice,
Nast.
but dirty.
Condé Nast. Oh, that's terrible. But Condé Nast is based on One World Trade Center. It's an advanced
in New York.
publication.
Yep.
Advanced publication.
Yeah, it's a mass media conglomerate.
Yeah.
It's very real, and I think that the guy in that meeting was an actual person from GQ.
From GQ, I think so, yeah.
Whereas the woman in that room is on AfterBuzz TV once a week.
Is.
What?
Nikki Boyer.
Nikki Boyer,
Oh,
who
man.
is a co-host on Straight Talk with Ross Matthews, who films at the AfterBuzz
Yes.
Studios.
Zach and I know her.
Awesome.
Yeah, completely threw me off.
Gotta love Hollywood.
I know that
That's
face.
great.
That's such a Hollywood thing.
Really funny. Straight Talk with Ross Matthews now on Mondays for the month of December. Well, I can plug.
Usually I do.
Anyway,
But
yeah.
like also in the lines we had Mae Whitman,
Yeah.
I
which
know,
was
shout
great
out.
because if you guys never watched Parenthood, obviously
daughter,
Lauren
right?
Graham
Yeah.
and Mae Whitman were together, mother-daughter. So I love the fact that both of Lauren Graham's on-screen daughters were in the same scene.
Yep, that was
So amazing.
Have you guys waited in lines like this?
For
I mean,
things?
forever. Maybe not for these. When they did Dumb Starbucks in Los Angeles, I did wait
I
in
thought
that
about
line.
going in for that. Yeah.
I lived up the road from there, so I waited in that line to just be cool.
Yeah, as a con goer, I have waited in many a line.
Yeah, sometimes if you think about all the time added up together of your life that you've ever spent waiting in any lines ever, it'll really make you insane.
I've done
yeah.
Black Friday every year.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I don't mess around with lines on
those
Black
kind of
Friday.
lines. No,
I'll go
I
to
do.
Black Friday. I don't mess around with the lines. I wait until it's
That's what
like
the internet
chill.
is for, you guys.
Yeah.
No, I'd wait in 4-hour lines in 20-degree weather.
I
Yeah.
waited in a 45-minute line for the Gilmore Girls pop-up when they did Loot.
Awesome.
Me and Yale Teagle, like Yale was like, "We're going, right?" Because she knew I was doing the Power Watch. And so we went like super early in the morning.
Awesome.
Had to get there like 6:15. It's dark out. And there were already like 200 people
Wow.
there
I
ahead of
believe
us.
it.
I thought it was going to be like super chill because it wasn't like a big deal. They were giving
Yeah.
out free coffee.
And surprising in LA that anyone gets up that early.
People got up for like a Luke Steiner
Yeah.
like pop
But
up
hey,
thing.
it's literally
great.
like right down the road from us, so that's totally understandable.
Yeah,
I've gone to the WB tour, not to digress completely from this after show, but the WB tour, the VIP tour, you always go downtown, the backlight of WB where they film
Yep.
Gilmore Girls. So like I've stood in Luke Steiner
Nice.
multiple times.
And this is before I watched the show, but like I've worked on the WB lot for like extended time. So like there are times where they're like when they're walking through like New York City, I'm like I can see I know exactly like where
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
lot that is. Like I had to drive golf carts through there to like get
Well,
to
I always think it's funny too, because like living out here and from the East Coast, and like I'm charmed by the
Yeah.
East Coast still. You know, it's home, and then like watching like the winter episode and being like, oh, it's so cozy. It's winter. It's lovely. Connecticut. And like, no, it's not Connecticut. Like,
No, it's like it's all like
That's
that
here.
town is Connecticut. It's also like the middle of nowhere Pennsylvania when Pretty Little Liars wants to shoot there. Like
Yeah,
it's the
exactly.
same. If you didn't know, it's the same town.
It's Rosewood. Yeah.
But yeah,
Gotta love C.
that's
movie.
I'm sorry we're breaking Hollywood walls for you. But anyway, the lines thing. All right, I enjoyed like how they like dealt with some of the people, like the bearded dude sitting
Yeah.
there. Like I wanted to hit.
Well, Rory fell asleep. Obviously, he
Dangerous,
wasn't that
dangerous.
riveting.
But I did not appreciate the nerd shaming that went on when Rory hooked up with, as she put it, the Wookiee guy.
Well, you know what's funny though? Historically on this show, as though they are kind of nerds, you would think based on all their pop culture and literary references, they are nerd shamers. This has come up before, I think. They make
Has it?
they make fun of nerd stuff. That's established, I think. Not so much that she wouldn't tap that, obviously. So, you know,
See-
it's a loving jibing, I think.
Yeah, like I wasn't as upset about the nerd shaming, quote unquote. It was more so.
Because you're too cool.
No. It was more so. I saw it as like, again, this is out of character for Rory to have a one-night
Apparently.
stand with a stranger. It's
Since
like,
she's never had one.
she's not herself right now in these episodes, and I don't like it.
See, I was just disappointed because as soon as she's like, I hooked up with a Wookiee, and it's like they established what happened, I was like immediately, I ship it. Like, I want to meet this nerd that she was having a good time with, that they were laughing
Yeah,
together,
yeah.
like. They connected just like at random. Like she clearly doesn't have feelings for Paul, and like
At
again,
all. She doesn't even recall Paul.
she cheated on him again here, which
Yep,
again
yep.
out of character and it bothers me. But if we ignore the fact that Paul exists, like the
Which,
show
like
is
we
doing,
all are doing.
like
Yeah.
having a one night stand is like not a big deal.
When you're out with your mom, though, a little weird. Like, I mean, she was obviously back at the hotel, but like
Yeah.
a weird thing to like I'm working and then I'm gonna go have a time with my mom. Like, don't go divert into a one night stand.
I don't
But
think
it
it was
happens,
one night stand.
but,
It was more
like,
like a quickie.
It was
Yeah,
that she was
totally.
so, like, I get, like, being frustrated, like, oh my god, I can't believe we did this. Like, but then, like, I don't know. For, like, as somebody who would be found dressed as a Wookiee in a line, like, I was just like, yeah, well, I was also just like, ouch. Like, if I had, like, hooked up with Rory, like, I would have been Wookiee guy out of all the guys that she's been with.
So you're not Paul, though, at least. So
no, I'm not Paul. I'm Wookiee
she
guy.
made the
At
Wookiee
least
guy
he got
sound,
some.
funny and could get it.
I know.
I just,
She's never had a one night stand was a sort of shocking. She's 32. I feel like keep saying it, but like, how has she never had a one night stand?
she's a serial monogamer.
Except
Well, she's also a
Logan.
person who usually has her ish together, and
Yeah.
she doesn't have that right now.
Like, she reacts to emotionally to things, but she doesn't rush into things
Yeah.
the same way. Like, she wouldn't, like, she hasn't to this point, like, ever hooked up with somebody on a whim.
Yeah.
It's always somebody that she has feelings for, except
What
the
a
situation
loser.
except for the situation with Tristan, but that was its own complicated mess.
Sure.
Tristan was coming out to her.
Yeah.
Let's get that straight.
Yeah. But, like, do you think the lines piece is going to be was that a good idea for her to take on? Like, this,
No.
like, ridiculous story?
No is the answer.
No, it's not good, but it's also like the way that they were going about it. It's the psychology of people going into the line. So I think there's a good angle that she could write about, and it's more so get out of her comfort zone. That's what makes you a great writer, is when you expand yourself beyond what you're comfortable with. And I think it is actually good for her. Maybe it might not be the best story, but she's Rory. She can roll with it and make it awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they set up from the prior series that I think maybe at Yale when she was on the paper and she got assigned really crappy like topics
it was
about
that was at Chilton.
concrete. At Chilton. Okay.
She had to, like, the paving.
Right. So she can obviously take something and make it a great piece of writing. They've set that up, but lines. I mean, she's not excited about it. It doesn't seem like, and
No,
She's
but I
desperate.
think it is
like
the
beggars can't be choosers.
That's right.
Yeah,
She's
I think
begging.
I think it's the perfect, like, they gave her one, like, carrot on a string. It was that or sports, which she doesn't know at all. So, like, if she can, this is her in. So she has to sort of just, like, attack it. Like, this is the project that got a potential option. So you have to just go into it head
to do it,
first.
yep.
And I like the idea of her taking it up on spec, not worrying about, like, that they don't know where they're going to put her yet. Like, prove yourself first.
Yep.
It's how she got the internship at the Gazette or whatever it was,
Yep.
where she was just, like, sitting in the lobby for, like, a month. So I think it works, and that's totally Rory.
Yeah.
Like, where the relationship stuff, I'm like, it doesn't feel like Rory. This feels like Rory.
yeah.
So I appreciate that. Let's jump back over to Lorelai, unless you guys have other things you want to say about Rory.
Let's jump back.
Because Lorelai in therapy with her mother.
What we always wanted and never knew we wanted, and it's a dream.
But once we actually saw them together, it's exactly how it would go down in therapy with those two. And I think
Long
it's-
stretches of silence, and then like weird joke, and then more silence.
Yeah, but it's necessary and needed for these two characters to actually sit down and talk their issues out. But the fact that they're still not doing that right or properly yet is still concerning. But, like, I'm glad it's on the path to maybe some resolve and resentment towards each other.
Well, like, the letter.
Yeah, that was
What
interesting.
letter?
Are we supposed to know? Is that supposed to reference
No,
something?
I don't.
No, right?
I don't think so.
I think this is just, like, literally, you know how when people want something so bad and they believe it, so they believe it's true. And I think that's just Emily's resentment towards Lorelai so much that she believed that Lorelai could do this. She convinced herself that Lorelai wrote this letter.
Interesting.
And I don't think it's even
You don't
a
think
real thing.
you don't think it's a real thing? I think it is. I think Lorelai forgot she did it, and because she's, I mean, we've seen her over all these years. She can be like emotional and say horrible stuff sometimes, and like I bet she did write a letter.
But I don't think she would do it in a written form towards her mother. That's the
Too much-
problem.
too much
I
evidence.
think Lorelai is a person who would actually speak her feelings, not write her feelings.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't think that I can't imagine this is the last we're going to hear about it.
Right.
but it does feel like, I don't know, like I guess it was an anonymous letter, and that Emily sort of just attributed to Lorelai. So if that's the case, I think, like, let's get to the bottom of who would have sent it. My first thought was an angry Rory.
Yeah.
Who's seeing, like, her mother, especially if it was, like, before, like, the series started, like, seeing her mother, like, reacting to all these things and wants to help in the way a little kid would.
See that. But
And
we don't-
Rory, even though Lorelai's like, I don't send letters. Rory would send
Rory
the
does
letter.
send
Rory would
letters.
send a
That's
letter.
right. That's right. That's really interesting. Want to know what it says?
Yeah. Or like, how long ago was this written?
Yeah.
Because apparently it's been a while since
Yeah. she's
Emily
been
let
holding
this
on to
brew
this.
over.
Yeah.
But like, I still think that Emma convinced herself that it was Lorelai.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Sure, it'll come up in therapy.
It didn't come up in the next session, though.
Oh.
But there's a lot of things that they're sort of hashing out. We talked about, like, what they're dealing with, but the whole thing with Luke becomes another wrench in their plans. This fits so well with this, like, this read almost as the most accurate to this original
Yeah.
series, like, of all the plot lines. Is
Right.
Richard, like, leaving Luke, like, here's a bunch of money, you can only use it to expand the diner, something like. Do you think Luke wants to actually expand and is just scared to, or he just has zero interest?
No
in it?
interest, because at that point you're not running a diner. If you have a franchise, you're like doing business crap all day, like, which is
Yeah.
not his interest. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Luke wants to expand. I think he runs his diner because he loves the town. He loves what he does. He's comfortable literally where he is. I mean, you think about it, Luke's apartment is where he, like right above Luke's, that's where he lived. Like, he loves his little town and he's very safe and secure. And the fact that he might have to expand just because of money, it's not really Luke's character to. He's just running his diner because he actually truly loves it.
Yeah. It's like, it's all he's, like, really wanted from life, right?
He's happy with it.
Well,
he's content.
Even so, that it is not what he wants, and maybe shows that Richard didn't know him very well, perhaps, but I was kind of touched that he left him money in the first place. Was sort of like a nice, like,
Yeah.
I know you're my daughter's person, like, it was kind of nice, even if misguided.
Luke's Diner Empire.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
like just the wording. That just shows Richard's mentality of how
Totally.
he ran his life and all of his investments, and how that's successful is when you control everybody else, not when you control yourself. And I just find it interesting. Yes, it's believable that Richard would do this, but again, it doesn't show that he knows Luke at all.
If I was Luke, I would just, like, the wording of that document says the expansion and franchising of Luke's Diner. Just focus on the expansion part. Be like,
Get rid of Taylor's Candy Shop or whatever's through
Yeah, that was my first thought. Was just like,
Expand that
he
one.
owns that building. Like,
Yeah.
he could have theoretically, like, give Taylor notice and kick him out.
Yeah.
Then that window, like, the ridiculous window.
Yeah.
Well,
man.
I think what was more painful was like Emily inserting herself into this expansion. Like actually actively going out and finding more real estate for Luke's empire.
With
like,
Ida the shark.
With Ida.
Yeah,
But it's such an Emily thing.
It's invasive, like Emily, but it's also maybe trying to fulfill her late husband's wishes. Is kind of like heart's in the right place, sort of, even though it's not what he wants, obviously. But
Oh yeah. But I like, it's fun. It's like a good, even though we're like, why are you doing this? It's
Yeah.
like, I appreciate, like, it's a good story.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch. And it's fun to watch Luke, like, squirm under all the circumstances.
yeah, Luke with Emily is like my dream. All I want to see is this uncomfortable situation.
Right, and I love when Luke saw Emily walking up to him. He was like, no, what are you doing here?
Let's talk about some of the other storylines that sort of that came up, like the sort of like random ones. Like we caught up with Lane and Zach.
Yeah, they played a catchy song, right?
They did. That was real. They were
Winter?
good. They were
Yeah,
on.
I'm the
I
man.
love how they're still together. They're still rocking this band, even
Yeah.
though that Zach is kind of successful in his life. He got a promotion, so like he's very well to do now. So, but the fact that they're still together doing this band because they love it, it keeps them together.
The 2 kids are grown.
2 kids now, yeah.
Seeing Paris amongst that group is so funny.
She was out of her element.
It's always funny when, like, because Lane and Rory, like, grew so far apart that, like, at certain times during the series when they would, like, get back and wind up together, it's like, oh, yeah, this feels weird. But, like, and, like, the idea, like, Paris and Lane, like, have barely met. But it's true.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they barely have met.
Well, we don't know in the last 9 years.
See, that was the thing. Like, I was legitimately trying to remember episodes. I was like, when have those two ever been in the scene together?
Yeah.
Very, very few.
Yeah. Hardly ever happened.
Yeah. But
But she liked their kids. They were good, good stock.
Who did your work? Him.
Yeah.
I mean, because they had that, like, oof, that was a tough one time. They had sex one time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's your life.
Yep. But yeah, did you guys have any other favorite moments from these 2 episodes?
Talking Paris, we got Doyle also.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about Paris and Doyle.
Gotta love Danny Strong.
Super just self-aware writing, because he literally went on. It's almost as much as if they had been like, yeah, he's like fighting vampires or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like for people who don't know, he actually has gone on to be a very successful screenwriter.
Emmy Award winning.
Yeah, including creating Empire on Fox.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he helped co-wrote Mockingjay, the Hunger Games Mockingjay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Very successful.
That's
Very
so funny.
successful.
This is poking fun at him.
Yeah, and I love that it's like, I had a
went
meeting
over
in
my head.
LA. They gave me a bunch of money and flew me first class. I'm like, yeah.
That's
Because
great.
that's probably actually happening in real life.
Yep.
But even Paris bringing up the topic before we actually see Doyle, is she finds it so distasteful what he's chosen to do, and it really it's very funny. Like, oh, screenwriting, no, like not
And
an option.
she's thinking like, oh, he'll do it for a little while, he'll fail, and then he'll come back. And she's like, oh no, he's doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he sold a few things.
And you know what I liked is when we do see him, and he and Rory have this little interaction, because obviously they have their own friendship. That's the moment that Rory seemed the most mature, I think, so far in these 2 episodes, where like, yeah, I'm closer friends with Paris, but we can be civil even though you're having trouble in your marriage or whatever. And she was just very like reasonable, and the most reasonable I think we saw her anywhere else in these 2 episodes.
I was sad to hear that they were getting a divorce.
Paris will be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
Slowly brings
she
her
will
down.
be fine. Paris
no
will-
drag to the top.
Paris will be fine. But like it was like that such like they were so weird together
odd couple,
that
yeah,
it
totally.
worked so well.
Yeah,
liked
I
it.
was actually kind of surprised at the fact that she had kids with Doyle.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, all right, they fully went there.
Yeah.
Okay.
2.
Two of them.
I mean,
also, like-
did she carry them? Was that covered, or did she? Was that part of her business?
That's a good question. They did not. I do not believe they addressed
I
it.
didn't even think about that.
Because that would be, that would interfere with her work.
Her
life.
work.
Just have someone
I
else do
can't
that
imagine her pregnant either.
work. Right.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
She'd be more intolerable as a pregnant woman.
That's right.
She has her like squad of surrogates though. Like she comes with 2 of them.
Breeders.
It's creepy.
Yeah, it's yucky.
And I loved Luke's
Yeah,
like,
Luke doesn't understand the process.
am I gonna have to have sex with these women? Like, I don't want to have sex with her.
But very true to his character to be so out of place in something so uncomfortable for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Well,
believe
and
that.
Paris calls it out, right? She's like, I get it. You're a small town boy. You get your milk from a cow. He's like, everyone gets their milk from a cow.
I really wanted someone to be like 2016.
Yeah,
some people
almond
get it
milk.
from a nut.
That's very true.
Almonds and soybeans.
All right. But yeah, was there any other things that we need to talk about? Like favorite
Michelle
moments?
might leave the Dragonfly.
Oh, yeah,
Inn.
Michelle. We didn't talk about him at all.
Yeah. Also, no one raised his name up when they were talking about the Gay Pride Parade.
Yeah, but
Right.
They missed
does
it.
he live in Stars Hollow, or does he
He
live
works
out?
there.
Yeah,
He's
but-
very much a part
But
of
does
Stars
he
Hollow.
participate in town stuff? I don't know. He's
No.
sort of
No,
like
he's never
above
been
it.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
so,
decidedly
so
stays
no
out
way
of
is
it.
he gonna march in a parade. Like, come on.
But
He's
I
definitely
love that
above
he's
it.
married now.
Yeah.
That's great. Like, do you guys think he's actually leaving, or he's just like trying to scare Lorelai?
Yeah, I think he's just frustrated right now because Sookie's not there. Like, he got used to this work life with Lorelai, and that's not really the same anymore, and he's just frustrated. And I think he's just not happy. And, like, yeah, you could be still working at the same place even if you're not happy.
That's right.
But
yeah, it could be just regular Michelle complaining, but I too early to tell maybe yet, since they are making it a storyline. Maybe he is gonna leave.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Yannick Truesdale has actually been here to the studios. He's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's cool.
Nice guy.
Yeah. He's
Is he
really
actually
cool.
French?
He's Canadian French.
All right. I don't know.
He actually does speak French.
But yeah, those were all of my favorite parts. Little tidbits like the town has a secret bar.
Oh yeah, that was cute.
I like that.
That was
and
cute.
of course, it would be Babette who would almost reveal that.
Yep.
When Emily brings Luke into the study at her house, he describes it as woody. I really laughed at that. Like, he's just so out of place. It's so charming.
I just
yeah.
there was one thing that like maybe we could quickly talk about.
Yeah.
The fact that this is on Netflix now, and I think they're a little bit more lenient on what they can get away with.
Yeah.
Not in, like they're talking about homosexuality. They're talking like Lorelai curses in this episode. She says "holy shit." I'm like, oh my god, it's so weird to see her curse.
I think it's also just the year difference. Like there is a vast difference from what's on television between 2007 and 2016. Like especially just like gay marriage. It's like it's not a touchy subject that you have to like wade into now. It's like no, it's just there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's more,
network
it's more
shows have
socially
gay
acceptable
characters
now
Yeah.
than it was 9 years ago.
Yeah. True.
But like, I loved the fact that like they can get a little bit more risque in their topics compared to what networks would actually limit them to.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if we
Netflix
were gonna,
is awesome.
Yeah, if we were dealing with it with Michelle's marriage in 2005, like Emily probably would have disagreed with it on principle, and she would have had an episode where she learns to accept it and stuff like that. Just realistically, like
yeah, the
that's like the
grandparents
sort of
are
stories that
Republicans.
you. Oh yeah, but those are sort of the stories that you told about that topic. Now it's just a point of like their lives.
Yeah.
It's not an issue,
Yeah.
and that's great. That's great that it's that simple to weave in.
Well, I liked picking out in the references like what shows has Lorelai been watching in the last 9 years, and like she definitely watched The Wire. I think there was a Game of Thrones reference. Like there's just different
Lord of
things.
the
Like yep,
Rings
she's here.
reference.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's nice to.
And she watches a lot of Lifetime.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all.
They
lot of
got
Lifetime.
real dangerous to losing me though, because they made a lot of negative comments about Marvel,
They did. They did.
and I'm just
I
like,
thought about you in
"Ooh,
this."
you're lucky I like you, girls.
No, I legit did think about you when they mentioned that Marvel reference. I was like, oh, how is Zach gonna take this?
Not well, but I'm moving past it. I mean, you saw how well I took the Wookiee situation. I liked Rachel Ray specifically.
Yeah.
Like her appearance was fun.
Yeah.
But I do miss Sookie.
Yeah.
Sookie.
Well, with that, like, do you guys want to do some predictions towards what we're looking towards?
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
You are using an unregistered version of Sound.
We're gonna fix that after this.
Great. Well, based on the trailer for the entire 4 episodes, I know that Sookie shows up at some point because she's in the trailer.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see her.
Well,
I
we
think that's
also-
where Michelle went. That's
to go get her.
like
get her?
like Michelle left to go get Sookie.
I would
good.
love
and
that.
and he's gonna come back and it's like, oh, you got him, and he's like, whatever. Like,
That's good. That's
you can't give too much emotion to Michelle or he's gonna freak out.
I love that. I think this whole family business with Lorelai, I think they're eventually going to start one. I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm not sure if they're actually going to go the surrogacy route or in vitro. I don't know. But I definitely think it's on the upswing to starting something because there was a line when Lorelai was talking in a therapy session. So like, Luke and I are happy. And I'm like, are you really? Like, and I'm questioning because I don't think they're happy.
Well, there was a really good line. She kind of summarizes her relationship for Rory, and she says, you know, I annoy him and he fixes the cabinets or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I think that's just like a relationship. You know, after a certain amount of time, it is that, but you still want to be around each other.
Yeah.
So it's not exciting, but it is.
I do agree. I
Nice.
think they're going to get pregnant.
Yeah.
I would actually, if I was going to just like predict, I would say more likely that they get pregnant the old-fashioned way. While they're planning on this surrogacy thing, it just like happens on its own by accident.
That'd be interesting.
Which admittedly medically is a little bit risky
Tough.
for Lorelai.
Very tough.
But not impossible.
No,
no.
maybe.
I would love to see Rory actually go back for her master's. Like, just maybe just scrap writing right now and just go back and get more education.
And teach. Do you
Yeah.
actually want her to go and teach?
Yeah.
At Chilton.
Or, like, maybe not even teach, but, like, she was always comfortable with education and learning about something. And I think if she, like, reassesses her life, goes back to school, maybe she can feel more confident once she gets out to get better jobs.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, having a master's is always something that's good. I think most writers at that level probably do have master's degree. She said
Yeah.
she skipped it. She easily could have, and then she just like she was getting gigs. So why go back to school?
Yeah, and depending on what you're writing, she could work a job and still be a writer. If she was doing a book, she could have time to do maybe both.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But she's not getting gigs right now, so I think it's actually a good time that she could go back to school.
Yeah. No, it makes
And
sense.
she moves back
Yeah.
with her mom, so, like, she's settling down.
Yeah, she has to move back in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Womp, womp. That's always. I mean, that's very true to life.
To life, that's
you're,
right.
You're at college, like you start losing jobs. Like, well, moving
Hey,
back
Mom.
in with mom and dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mom and surrogate dad.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for the first Gilmore Girls after show at AfterBuzz TV. Thank you guys so much for joining us for Gilmore Girls, a year in the life, winter and spring. If you like the show, jump on iTunes, give us a review. It helps other people find the podcast so that they can enjoy it. If you're on YouTube, let us know what you thought of the show. You can do it right in the comments below the video. Give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. And we want to know what you think. Are you on board with Rory getting back into school? What do you think of her relationship status? Should Luke be launching his empire? If he does, he should call Doyle. I'm just saying, like, he knows what he's doing. And until next week, you guys can find me. I'm Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson. And also on a whole bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes back this week. And on the Popcorn Talk, I've got my show Sci-Fi Weekly, which is so vastly different in audience from this show. But if you happen to be a weird
we hate nerds
crossover
here.
of those two universes, we're jumping on and we're going to tape right now as soon as I get out of this room.
There you go.
Why don't you guys tell people where they can find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV. Check out my Parenthood After Show too, because I hosted that one. I have one more prediction. I'm cheating. I think Luke will propose to Lorelai.
Good call.
Actually
Good one.
get it
Good
going.
one.
But wait, Hayley,
Done.
Hayley.
Yes.
If people want to lead, where can they follow you?
Nice one. They can follow me on Twitter at Hayley O'Connor, Hayley, or on Instagram at Hayley Wood.
I'm sorry, I had to get that one
No, that's
out.
great.
Liked it.
All right, guys, this has been the Gilmore Girls After Show. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon with Summer and Fall.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
Views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.